Tayanara Melo, also known as FKA Conti, has been someone that many of you wanted a video on, so, here we go. Let's cut to the chase and talk about Number 10. Her WWE past and struggles. Melo was working for WWE for 4 years, from 2016 until 2020. She was a part of NXT and she also competed at the inaugural Mae Young Classic tournament, where she lost her first round match to Lacey Evans. She made her debut as Tayanara Conti at WrestleMania Axis in Orlando, competing against Sarah Bridges in a losing effort. Her NXT run was quite underwhelming, with very few highlights, one being her short involvement with the Undisputed Era. They basically used her to mess with Nikki Cross, a member of their enemy stable. Melo didn't have a good time at all, and she had asked multiple times for her release, but WWE didn't release her until the pandemic hit. However, despite her underwhelming run, she managed to set a record. She competed in the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania, and by doing so, she became the first Brazilian woman to compete at the grandest stage of them all. Number 9. Someone didn't want her at all. Elite Wrestling. Following her departure from WWE, Melo was looking for the next step. She talked with her friend Luchasaurus, who had a similar experience in WWE, and he talked to Kenny Omega about signing her. However, Kenny wanted a second opinion, and he asked Ref Aubrey Edwards, and Melo were working for NXT during the same time, so Aubrey could provide an insider's take on Melo. And it was quite negative. She told Kenny that Melo doesn't have a good attitude and she might be a problem for the locker room environment. But the two have a good relationship now, and Melo admitted that indeed she was under a lot of stress back in NXT and she didn't act like her usual self. Number 8. How does she deal with negative comments? Almost every wrestler has his critics, but Melo and Sammy have received lots of hate online. I have no idea why or how it begun. Some were critical of Sammy being with TAY soon after his breakup with his previous girlfriend Pam, but I'm not sure if that's all. People are acting like they know what's the case while they are clueless. Anyway, let's see how they deal with the negativity.
How do you handle the hate?
I don't. I delete my app and I cry. Okay. Sometimes you get in a point that some stuff doesn't affect you anymore. And it depends of the day though, right? Some days I'm super chill and I'm okay with whatever, I don't care. But some days I'm more sensitive and then one bad comment hits me really bad.
Some days you're much better at it than I am, and then some days I'll read that one mean one that just hits the heart, and then I'm like all in my feelings, but then you cheer me back up. And then some days the other way around.
Remember, professional wrestlers are also people. You need to be kind to everyone. Number 7. She went to school with a famous athlete. As you know, Melo is Brazilian, and Brazil has many great athletes, especially in MMA and football, or soccer as my American friends call it. So, who did she go to the same school with? The answer is Felipe Coutinho. While he was a few years older, the two hung out as friends and were part of a special school for athletes. Felipe followed his sport to the end, and he's a top-tier midfielder. Melo, on the other hand, chose another path, that of professional wrestling, but, be careful cause. Number 6. You don't want to get on her bad side. We mentioned that Melo was an athlete, but what was her sport? She was actually a judoka and she even got a black belt. She hoped to make it to the Olympics with the Brazilian national team, but in the end it wasn't meant to be. However, when you hear of Brazil, the first martial art that comes to mind is definitely not judo, it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Melo has some level of expertise in BJJ as well, and she's a blue belt, which I think is considered intermediate. Anyway, you don't want to pick a fight with her. Number 5. Her favorite wrestlers growing up. This actually a non-fact and the reason is simple. Melo doesn't have any childhood favorites because she didn't watch pro wrestling growing up. As she said in an interview with Renee Paquette, wrestling is not a big thing in Brazil. I never watched it, I never knew about it before. That was not a thing at all for me. It's hard, because normally everybody asks who was your favorite wrestler growing up? I'm like, I don't have it, because I never watched it till I came here. But WWE contacted me and they asked me to do a tryout, and I said no because I was like, I don't know what it is. And in my mind I was like, I'm not getting out of my country to go to a different country to do something that I don't even know what it is. But then, I knew Arturo Ruiz and he was in WWE. I asked him, and then I was like, yeah, let's do it. It's a good opportunity. So that's how pro wrestling became a thing in my life. Unquote. Despite being completely clueless as to what pro wrestling was, Melo's legit style and oozing charisma were enough to impress WWE and land her a contract. Number 4. What are her ambitions in All Elite Wrestling? Pretty much every wrestler wants to become a champion at some point. Although she has won the AAA World Mixed Tag Team Championship with her husband Sammy Guevara, you have to wonder what are her thoughts on singles titles, especially the AEW Women's and TBS Championships. Here's what she had to say.
Hi. Does she see herself going after the TBS or the AEW Women's World Championship?
Honestly, I'll keep working hard. I'll keep doing my best. If the title comes, great. If it doesn't, I do not need a title to know how good I am, to know that I'm worth it. So I think it's like, of course I want it, but it's not something that I needed, So crowd reaction and meet and greet line say it all.
Number 3. Why did she change her name? Melo used to be known as Conti, but what's the story behind the change? Well, WWE had to come up with a name for her, and she proposed TAY, which is her real first name, and Conti, which was her husband's last name at that time. That's right, Melo was married with a fellow judoka named Jorge Conti, from 2017 until 2021. Now she's using her real name TAY Melo. Her full name is actually Tayanara Melo de Carvalho, and you can also add Guevara somewhere in there. Number 2. Her height, hometown and more. Melo was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, on June 9, 1995, which means she's 27 years old. She stands at 5 feet 6 inches or 168 centimeters. Number 1. Her best friends and some of her funniest moments. Going to another country to follow your dreams isn't an easy thing, and a big part of it is leaving your people behind and having to make new friends who speak another language. TAY managed to make some good friendships in WWE, and I quote, "I have a couple of people I will keep in touch with, but Nikki Cross has my heart. She is different. Nikki and Raul Mendoza. I have no words for them. Since day one, Nikki was so helpful and I had my first TV match against her, so she's special. She always helps me with everything. I'm so thankful to have her and Raul. Raul's always in my house, we're always together. I really like a lot of people, but those two are like my bestest friends." Unquote. As you can probably guess, Melo is often featured on Sammy's vlogs. The two are a very funny and wholesome couple, and their segments are always entertaining. Let's watch some of them.
Day for shoe shopping. Sammy's waiting on a little help. Here's help in the form of a tilt-a-whirl swerve this side of Russo, except she's beautiful. Duck under the roundhouse kick, counter to the clothesline. Tour continues, this time from Paris, France, in front of the erected Eiffel Tower. And I gotta be honest with you, with all that body contact, the tower might not be the only thing that's erecting. But get your mind out the gutter. I'm talking about TAY Conti. She's flying high in the sky on the wings of love.